The first time my son said it, I didn't think much about it. Kids say strange things all the time. Half the time, they're repeating something they heard on YouTube, the other half, they're inventing stories that make absolutely no sense. But the way he whispered it, that stayed with me. "He's harmless," my son murmured quietly, standing beside me at the kitchen window. At the time, I thought he meant the stray dog that had been wandering around our street for weeks. A skinny golden mutt that liked to sleep under the big oak tree across from our driveway. I didn't realize he was talking about the man. The man who would destroy everything. My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 37, a single father living in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. The kind of neighborhood where people leave their garage doors open and kids ride bikes until the streetlights flicker on. Or at least, that's what it used to feel like. My son Ethan is 9 years old, smart kid, quiet, the kind of child who notices things adults miss. After my divorce 2 years ago, it had just been the two of us in the house. A small blue 2-story place at the end of Maple Ridge Drive, not fancy, but peaceful. For a long time, that peace was the only thing holding me together. Until the day Ethan whispered those words. "He's harmless." It was a Thursday afternoon in late September. I remember because the air smelled like rain and someone down the street was grilling burgers. Ethan had just come home from school. His backpack was half unzipped, homework papers sticking out like feathers. I was washing dishes when he walked over to the window and stared outside. That's when he said it. "He's harmless." I dried my hands and leaned over slightly. "Who is?" I asked casually. Ethan hesitated. Then he pointed across the street. At first, I didn't see anyone. Then I noticed him. A man sitting on the curb beside a faded gray sedan. Mid-40s maybe, dark beard, baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. He was looking down at his phone like he had nowhere else to be. I frowned slightly. "You know him?" Ethan shook his head. "No," he said softly. "Then how do you know he's harmless?" My son didn't answer right away. Instead, he gave a small shrug, the kind kids do when they feel like something should be obvious. "He just is." I stared at the man for another moment. He looked ordinary. Jeans, hoodie, nothing threatening. Just some guy parked on the street. Probably waiting for someone. So I didn't think about it again. But over the next few weeks, I started noticing something strange. The gray sedan kept appearing. Not every day, but often enough that it caught my attention. Sometimes it was parked halfway down the block. Sometimes near the mailboxes. Sometimes directly across from my house. Always the same car. Always the same man. And always sitting there, watching. The first time I felt uneasy was on a Sunday morning. Ethan and I were leaving for the grocery store when I spotted the sedan again. Engine off. Driver inside. Staring straight ahead. When we walked past the car, the man glanced at us briefly. Just a quick look. But something about it made the back of my neck tight. I opened the passenger door for Ethan. As he climbed in, he leaned close to me and whispered again. "See." I looked down. "See what?" "The man." I followed his gaze toward the sedan. The driver was still sitting there. Motionless. Ethan lowered his voice. "I told you." "Told me what?" "He's harmless." That word again. Harmless. Something about the way he said it made me uncomfortable. "Ethan," I said gently, "have you talked to that man before?" My son shook his head quickly. "No." "Has he talked to you?" Another pause. Then a small shrug. "Not really." "Not really." I closed the car door slowly. "What does that mean?" Ethan avoided my eyes. He just smiles sometimes. My chest tightened. "When?" "After school, when I walk home." The air suddenly felt colder. "Why didn't you tell me that before?" Ethan looked confused by my reaction. "I thought you knew." "No," I said carefully, "I didn't." We drove to the store in silence. But my mind kept replaying that sentence. He smiles sometimes. When I walk home. That night, after Ethan went to bed, I sat in the living room staring out the front window, half expecting to see the gray sedan again. But the street was empty. Quiet. Still. Days passed. Then one afternoon, I came home early from work. And there it was again. The gray sedan, parked directly across from my house. This time, the man wasn't looking at his phone. He was looking at my front door. Watching. The moment he saw me step out of my car, he quickly looked away. Something inside me snapped. I walked across the street. The man rolled down his window, halfway as I approached. Up close, he looked tired, dark circles under his eyes, beard slightly unkempt. "Can I help you?" he asked. His voice was calm, almost friendly. "Yeah," I said. "You can start by telling me why you keep parking outside my house." The man blinked in surprise. "Oh," he said. "I'm just waiting for someone." "Who?" He hesitated. "An old friend." "Who?" Another pause. Then he gave a small shrug. "Look, man, I'm not doing anything wrong." Something about the way he said it felt rehearsed. I studied his face, trying to decide if he was lying. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. "You're Daniel, right?" I froze. "How do you know my name?" He smiled slightly. "Your son mentioned it." A cold weight settled in my chest. "My son." "Yeah," the man said casually. "Ethan, nice kid." My heart started pounding. "What exactly have you been talking to my son about?" The man leaned back slightly in his seat. "Nothing serious." "Define nothing serious." "He just said you work a lot." My pulse spiked. "You shouldn't be talking to him at all." The smile on the man's face faded. "He talks first," he said. I took a step closer to the car. "You stay away from my kid." The man raised both hands calmly. "Relax. I'm serious." He studied me for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "Okay." I turned and walked back toward my house. But the entire time, I could feel his eyes on my back. That night, I sat on Ethan's bed while he played with his tablet. "Buddy," I said gently, "that man outside, how many times have you talked to him?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. He kept tapping the screen. Then he said quietly, "Not many." "How many?" "Maybe 5. My chest tightened. "What did he say to you?" Ethan shrugged. "Just normal stuff." "Like what?" He finally looked up at me. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. He said he used to know Mom. I felt the room spin slightly. "What?" Ethan nodded. He said she told him about us. My throat went dry. My ex-wife had moved to Arizona after the divorce. I hadn't heard from her in almost a year. "So that's why you think he's harmless?" I asked slowly. Ethan nodded again. "Yeah." Then he whispered the words that would come back to haunt me weeks later. "Mom said he was nice." 3 weeks later, a stranger's post on the internet would explode across social media. Millions of views, thousands of comments, and in the middle of that post was a photo of my son. Standing beside that same gray sedan, the photo hit the internet on a Tuesday night. I didn't see it first. My sister did. I was halfway through reheating leftover pasta when my phone started buzzing on the counter. Once, twice, then 5 times in a row. At first I ignored it. I figured it was work emails. But then it kept vibrating, over and over again. Finally, I picked it up. 6 missed calls from my sister, Laura. 3 text messages. The first one read, "Daniel, answer the phone." The second, "Right now." The third one made my stomach drop. "Why is Ethan on Twitter?" I immediately called her back. She answered on the first ring. "Daniel," she said, her voice tight, "tell me that photo isn't real." "What photo?" There was a pause. "The one with Ethan." My heart started pounding. "What are you talking about?" Laura inhaled slowly. "There's a post going viral right now. Some guy posted a picture of a kid standing next to a car and Daniel." Her voice cracked slightly. The kid looks exactly like Ethan. Every muscle in my body went rigid. That's not possible. Open Twitter. I walked into the living room slowly, my hands suddenly cold. Who posted it? Some account called Road Truth Project. I don't know what it is, maybe a blog or some kind of crime page. I opened the app. The post was right at the top of the trending tab. Over 2 million views. 30,000 shares. And climbing fast. My thumb hovered over the screen for a moment before I tapped it. The first thing I saw was the caption. Parents, do you know who your children are talking to after school? This boy approached my car 3 weeks ago, said a man named Daniel leaves him alone most afternoons. My chest tightened. Below the caption was a photo. The world seemed to stop moving. It was Ethan, standing on the sidewalk, next to the gray sedan. He was smiling, and the man was standing beside him, hand resting lightly on Ethan's shoulder. I couldn't breathe. Daniel, Laura said softly through the phone. That's him, I whispered. Oh my God. My hand started shaking. The post continued below the image. I took this picture because something felt wrong. The kid said his dad works late, said a man sometimes waits for him. I've seen stories like this before. Grooming starts small, smiles, friendly conversations, then rides, then secrets. Thousands of comments flooded beneath it. This is terrifying. Find the dad immediately. Someone call the police. Child predators everywhere. My vision blurred slightly. Then I noticed something worse. The account had posted another picture. This one was zoomed in. Close enough to read Ethan's school logo on his hoodie. Close enough to see our street sign in the background. Maple Ridge Drive. My blood turned to ice. Laura, I said slowly. He posted our street. What? He posted where we live. Oh my God. More comments appeared every second. Someone in Ohio needs to check on that kid. I'm reporting this. I think I know that neighborhood. My breathing became shallow. I scrolled further. Then my heart nearly stopped. Someone had posted my full name. Found the father, Daniel Carter, works at Carter Mechanical. Public records show he lives on Maple Ridge Drive. My stomach twisted violently. Laura, I said. Yeah. They found me. What do you mean? My name is in the comments. The phone line went quiet. Daniel, she whispered. You need to call the police. Before I could answer, the front door upstairs creaked open. Footsteps. Small ones. Ethan appeared at the top of the stairs, rubbing his eyes. Dad. I quickly locked my phone. Hey, buddy. He walked down slowly. Why are you still awake? I got thirsty. He paused halfway down the stairs. Then his eyes landed on my face. Are you okay? I forced a smile. Yeah. But inside, my chest felt like it was collapsing. Come here, I said. He walked over. I knelt down in front of him. Ethan, I need you to answer something honestly. He nodded. Did that man ever take your picture? Ethan thought for a moment. Then he said something that made my heart sink deeper. Yeah. Why? He said he wanted to show his friend. My pulse thundered in my ears. Did he touch you? No. Did he ask you to get in the car? No. I exhaled slowly. Did he ask you to keep secrets? Ethan hesitated. Just for a second. But I saw it. My stomach dropped. What secret? Ethan shifted nervously. He said not to tell you we talked. A cold wave of anger surged through my chest. Why? He said you'd get mad. I closed my eyes briefly. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it was a notification. A direct message. From the account that posted the photo. Road Truth Project. My fingers felt numb as I opened it. The message was short. You need to see the full video. My blood ran cold. What video? I whispered. Another message appeared instantly. The one where your son tells me something very interesting. I stared at the screen. Then the third message arrived. About his mother. My heart skipped. Ethan's mother. My ex-wife. The woman who disappeared from our lives. My hands trembled as I typed back. What are you talking about? The reply came almost immediately. I didn't want to post it. A typing bubble appeared. Then vanished. Then came the final message. But now that this is viral, people deserve the truth. A video file appeared below the message. I hesitated for several seconds. My chest felt tight. Then I pressed play. The video opened with shaky footage from inside the gray sedan. The camera pointed toward the passenger window. Ethan stood on the sidewalk outside. Backpack on. Sunlight behind him. The man's voice came from behind the camera. So your dad doesn't know we talk? Ethan shook his head. No. Why not? Because he'd get mad. The man chuckled softly. Your mom wouldn't mind though, right? Ethan smiled slightly. No. Why? Because she told me you're nice. The man paused, then asked quietly, when did you talk to her? Ethan answered without hesitation. Last month. My heart slammed against my ribs. That was impossible. My ex-wife hadn't contacted Ethan in almost a year. Then the man asked the question that made the entire room feel like it was spinning. Did she tell you why she left? Ethan nodded, then said 6 words that would destroy everything I thought I knew. She said Dad isn't safe anymore. The video ended. I sat frozen on the couch, my ears ringing. My phone vibrated again. Another message from the stranger. You might want to ask your son what he meant by that. And suddenly, for the first time since this nightmare started, I realized something even more terrifying than the viral post. The man in the car might not be the biggest problem in this story. My son was hiding something. And whatever it was, it involved his mother. For a long time after the video ended, I just sat there. My phone rested in my hand, the screen dimming slowly as my mind tried to process what I had just heard. She said Dad isn't safe anymore. The words echoed in my head like a crack in glass, spreading wider and wider. Across from me, Ethan was sitting on the floor with his cup of water, swinging his legs casually like nothing had happened. Like the world hadn't just collapsed. Ethan, I said quietly. He looked up. Yeah. My throat felt dry. Do you remember what you told the man in that video? He frowned slightly. What video? I hesitated. Then I opened the clip again and turned the phone toward him. Watch. The room filled with the sound of his own voice. When the clip ended, Ethan stared at the screen for a few seconds. Then he shrugged. Oh, I repeated slowly. Yeah. My chest tightened. Buddy, you said Mom told you I wasn't safe. Ethan looked confused. Yeah. When did she say that? He thought for a moment. On the phone. My pulse spiked. When? Last month. That's not possible, I whispered. Ethan tilted his head. Why? Because your mom hasn't called in almost a year. He stared at me, then said something that made my stomach drop again. She didn't call you. What? She called me. The air in the room felt heavy. How? On my tablet. My mind started racing. You mean on the messaging app? He nodded. Yeah. When did this happen? After school one day. Did you tell me? He shook his head slowly. She told me not to. The room suddenly felt 10 degrees colder. Why not? Ethan lowered his voice slightly. She said it would make things worse. I sat back on the couch, my mind spinning. My ex-wife Megan had vanished after the divorce. Packed her things. Moved to Arizona. Blocked my number. Stopped answering emails. And most painfully, she stopped calling Ethan. For almost a year. Now suddenly, she was secretly messaging him. Ethan, I said carefully. What exactly did Mom say? He stared at the carpet for a moment. Then answered quietly. She said you were getting angry again. A knot tightened in my chest. What does that mean? She said sometimes dads change. My jaw clenched. Did she say why she thought that? Ethan hesitated, then nodded. She said she heard things. What things? He looked up at me nervously. Dad, are you mad? No, I said quickly. I just want the truth. He took a deep breath. She said you hurt someone. The words felt like a punch to the chest. What? She said that's why she left. I stared at him, my brain struggling to understand. That's not true. Ethan shrugged uncertainly. That's what she said. 1,000 memories started rushing back. The arguments, the shouting, the final night before Megan left. But I had never hurt anyone. Never. I leaned forward slowly. Did she say who I hurt? Ethan shook his head. No. Did she tell you why that man was talking to you? His expression changed slightly. He said he was helping her. My blood ran cold. Helping her with what? Ethan answered softly. Making sure I was okay. Every nerve in my body suddenly felt on fire. You mean she asked him to talk to you? I think so. Did he say that? Ethan nodded slowly. He said she was worried about me. My hands clenched into fists. The stranger. The gray sedan. The friendly smiles. The conversations after school. It wasn't random. It was planned. My ex-wife had sent him. But why? My phone buzzed again. Another message from Road Truth Project. You watched the video. I stared at the screen. What do you want? The typing bubble appeared instantly. I want you to explain something. Explain what? Why your ex-wife thinks you're dangerous. My chest tightened. You've been talking to her. A pause. Then the reply came. Yes. My heart skipped. What did she tell you? Several seconds passed before the next message appeared. Enough to make me concerned. Anger flared inside me. You've been stalking my kid. Monitoring. That's not better. Another pause. Then the stranger sent a new message. This time it wasn't text. It was a screenshot. A conversation thread. Between him and Megan. My ex-wife. My stomach twisted as I read the messages. Megan, please keep an eye on him after school. Stranger, you're sure the father does know. Megan's no and he can't. Stranger, why? The next message made my hands start shaking. Megan, because if Daniel finds out what really happened the night I left, someone could get hurt again. My vision blurred slightly. I typed back immediately. What night? The stranger responded with a single sentence. The night your neighbor called the police. My heart stopped. Because suddenly, a memory I had buried deep inside my mind came rushing back. The night the cops knocked on my door. The night Megan packed her bags. The night the entire neighborhood watched my house like something terrible had happened. But the police left after 20 minutes. No charges. No report. Nothing. At least that's what I thought. My phone buzzed again. Another message. You should probably know something. What? The reply came slowly. I didn't post that photo to accuse you. My fingers hovered over the screen. Then why did you post it? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then finally the message came. Because someone else sent it to me first. My stomach dropped. Who? The answer appeared. Your neighbor. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. What neighbor? The stranger sent another image. This time it was a screenshot of an email. Subject line. Please expose this man. Sender. Mark Henderson. The house directly next to mine. The same neighbor who had called the police the night Megan left. My heart started pounding. I typed one last question. Why would he send you that? The reply came instantly. He claims your son is in danger. My chest tightened. From who? The typing bubble appeared again. then stopped. Then came the message that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. From you. At that exact moment, there was a loud knock on my front door. 3 sharp hits. Boom. 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 Ethan jumped slightly. Dad. I slowly stood up. My heart racing. The knocking came again. Harder this time. Then a voice shouted from outside. Columbus Police Department. My blood turned to ice. Mr. Carter. Another knock. We need to speak with you immediately. I walked toward the door slowly, my hands shaking, because suddenly one terrifying thought was racing through my mind. What if someone had finally convinced the world that I was the villain in this story? The knocking didn't stop. Boom. 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 Mr. Carter, Columbus Police. Ethan grabbed the edge of my shirt, his small fingers tightening in the fabric. Dad, what's happening? I didn't answer right away, because suddenly the room felt smaller. The walls closer. My heart beat loud enough that I could hear it in my ears. For a second, I thought about not opening the door, just standing there, pretending no one was home. But that would only make things worse. So I took a slow breath and walked to the front door. When I opened it, 2 uniformed officers stood on my porch. Behind them, red and blue lights flashed across the quiet street. A police cruiser idled at the curb. And across the road, I saw something that made my stomach twist. My neighbor, Mark Henderson, standing on his lawn, watching, the same way he had watched the night Megan left. The taller officer spoke first. Daniel Carter. Yes. We received several reports regarding a viral post involving a minor. My chest tightened. My son. Is he here right now? I nodded. He's inside. May we come in? I stepped aside. They entered slowly, their eyes scanning the living room. Ethan was standing by the couch, looking nervous. The shorter officer crouched slightly, so he was eye level with him. Hey there, buddy, what's your name? Ethan. Hi, Ethan, I'm Officer Grant. Ethan glanced at me. I nodded slightly. It's okay. The officer gave him a gentle smile. We just need to ask a few questions, all right. Ethan nodded. Meanwhile, the taller officer turned back to me. Mr. Carter, are you aware of the post currently circulating online? Yes. Do you know the man in the photo with your son? No. You've never met him. I confronted him once. When? About a week ago. What did he say? That he was waiting for a friend. The officer scribbled something into a small notebook. Then he asked the question I'd been dreading. Did you know your son had been speaking with him? I hesitated. Yes. His eyebrows lifted slightly. And you didn't report that. I told the man to stay away. That's not the same thing. My jaw tightened. I understand that now. Across the room, Officer Grant was still talking softly with Ethan. Did the man ever ask you to get in the car? No. Did he ever touch you? Ethan shook his head. No. Did he ever make you feel uncomfortable? Another pause. Then Ethan said something that made the officer glance toward me. He said my mom asked him to watch me. The room went silent. Officer Grant straightened slightly. Your mom? Ethan nodded. Yeah. The taller officer turned back to me slowly. Mr. Carter, where is Ethan's mother? Arizona. Have you spoken to her recently? No. How long has it been? Almost a year. He exchanged a look with his partner, then asked quietly, did she leave suddenly? Yes. After an incident. My chest tightened again. What incident? The officer flipped a page in his notebook. The one your neighbor reported. Outside the window, Mark Henderson was still standing there, watching like a hawk. I don't know what he told you, I said carefully, but nothing happened. The officer studied my face. Your neighbor claimed there was shouting, loud noises, possible violence. That was an argument. Arguments don't usually end with police visits. My patience snapped slightly. The police came, they looked around, then they left. Did they file a report? I don't know. Officer Grant walked over. Sir, there actually is a report. My stomach dropped. What? It wasn't filed as an arrest, he said, but it was documented. The room suddenly felt too quiet. What does it say? Grant looked down at the tablet in his hand. Then read slowly. Domestic disturbance. Female caller reported being frightened during argument, claimed her husband threw something across the room. My mind flashed back instantly. A glass. Thrown against the wall. Shattering. But it hadn't been thrown at her. It hit the wall beside the sink. Because I was angry. Not violent. Just angry. The officer continued reading. Caller declined to press charges. I rubbed my face. Because nothing happened. Grant didn't respond. Instead, he asked Ethan another question. Buddy, when was the last time you talked to your mom? Last month. Both officers froze. Grant looked at me. You said you haven't spoken to her in a year. I haven't. Ethan raised his tablet slightly. She messaged me here. Grant gently took the tablet. Do you still have the messages? Ethan nodded. Yeah. The officer opened the app. His eyes moved quickly across the screen. Then his expression changed. What? I asked. He turned the tablet toward me. The conversation was short. 3 messages. Mom, hi sweetheart, are you okay? Ethan, yeah. Mom, is Dad still getting angry? My stomach twisted. Ethan, sometimes. Mom, I asked a friend to watch you after school. His name is Ryan, he's nice. Ryan. The man in the gray sedan. Grant scrolled further. There was one more message. Sent 2 days later. Mom, if Ryan ever says it's time to go with him, you can trust him. The room felt like it was spinning. What the hell? I whispered. The taller officer looked at me carefully. Mr. Carter, your ex-wife told your son to leave with a stranger. That doesn't make sense. Grant's voice was quieter now. Unless she believed your son was in danger. My fists clenched. I would never hurt my kid. Before either officer could respond. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Road Truth Project. I opened it slowly. The stranger had sent a new link. A news article. Published only minutes ago. Headline: Ohio father under investigation after viral child safety post. Below the headline was the same photo. Ethan beside the gray sedan. And beneath it my full name. Address. Workplace. Thousands of comments pouring in. My life exposed to the entire internet. I felt sick. But the worst part wasn't the article. It was the final message the stranger sent. You should probably know something else. My fingers trembled. What now? The reply appeared slowly. I didn't send the police. I frowned. Then who did? The typing bubble appeared. Paused. Then finally the answer came. Your ex-wife. My heart stopped. What? She emailed the department this morning. A screenshot followed. Subject line. My son may be in danger. Sender. Megan Carter. My ex-wife. The message beneath it was only 1 sentence long. If Ryan hasn't taken Ethan yet, it may already be too late. A cold chill spread through my entire body. Too late for what? And suddenly, a horrifying realization hit me. Ryan. The man in the gray sedan. The man Megan sent. The man who had been talking to my son. He wasn't outside tonight. For the first time in weeks. The car wasn't on the street. And I had no idea where he was. Or why Megan believed he needed to take my son away from me. Because if she thought Ethan needed rescuing, then she believed something terrible was about to happen. Something involving me. And I had absolutely no idea what she thought I was going to do. For a moment, nobody in the room spoke. The police officers stood near the couch. Ethan sat quietly beside me. My phone was still in my hand, Megan's message glowing on the screen like a warning I didn't understand. If Ryan hasn't taken Ethan yet, it may already be too late. Too late for what? Officer Grant finally broke the silence. Mr. Carter, we're going to need to contact your ex-wife. I agree, I said immediately, because none of this makes sense. Grant nodded and stepped outside to make the call. The taller officer stayed inside with us. Ethan leaned closer to me, whispering, "Dad, am I in trouble?" My chest tightened. "No, buddy," I said softly. "You didn't do anything wrong. But the police are here. They're just making sure everything's okay." He looked down at his shoes. "Mom said they might come one day." My stomach twisted. "What exactly did she tell you?" Ethan hesitated. Then he said quietly, "She said if things got scary, Ryan would help." I felt anger rising again. Did she say what was supposed to get scary? Ethan shook his head. "No." The front door opened. Officer Grant stepped back inside, his expression serious. I reached her. My heart skipped. "What did she say?" Grant looked directly at me. She sounded terrified. "Of what?" "You." The word hung in the air like smoke. "That's ridiculous." "Maybe," he said carefully, "but she believes it." Grant walked closer and lowered his voice. "She said the night she left, you weren't just angry." My jaw tightened. "She claims you threatened someone." "Who?" "Your neighbor." My head snapped toward the window. Mark Henderson was still standing across the street, arms folded. Watching. Grant continued. "She says Mark tried to calm you down during the argument, and you told him something that scared her." "What?" Grant paused, then repeated the words slowly. "If anyone tries to take my family away, they'll regret it." I closed my eyes for a moment. I remembered saying it, but not the way they were hearing it. "I wasn't threatening anyone," I said quietly. "I was angry. My marriage was falling apart." Grant studied my face. "I believe you." The other officer spoke for the first time in several minutes. "But Mark Henderson clearly doesn't." I followed his gaze toward the window again. Mark was now talking to someone beside him. Another man. My heart skipped. A gray sedan pulled up behind the police cruiser. The same car. Ryan stepped out slowly. For the first time since all of this started, I saw him standing clearly under the streetlights. He looked exhausted, like a man who hadn't slept in days. Grant and the other officer stepped outside immediately. I stayed inside with Ethan, watching through the window as they spoke with him. Ryan raised his hands calmly while explaining something. The officers listened. One of them glanced back at my house. Then the conversation grew quieter. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Finally, Grant returned to the door. "Mr. Carter, Ryan would like to explain something." Ryan stepped inside slowly. His eyes met mine. For the first time since we spoke beside his car weeks ago, he didn't look calm. He looked ashamed. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "For what?" "For everything." The room felt tense. "Start talking," I said. Ryan nodded. Then he said something that made the entire story finally make sense. "Your wife didn't hire me to spy on you." My eyes narrowed. "Then why were you talking to my son?" "Because she thought someone else was watching him." I blinked. "What?" Ryan continued. "Megan contacted me because I work with a volunteer group that checks on kids in complicated custody situations." Grant nodded slightly. "They're not law enforcement," he explained, "but they monitor potential safety concerns." Ryan looked down briefly. "She told me she was worried about Ethan being alone after school." "That's it." "At first, yes." My chest tightened. "Then why all the secrecy?" Ryan sighed. "Because your neighbor contacted her." My stomach dropped. "Marked." Ryan nodded. "He emailed her weeks ago." "What did he say?" Ryan pulled out his phone, then turned the screen toward me. It was a message from Mark Henderson, the same neighbor who had been watching my house every night. The message read, "I think Daniel is losing control again. Ethan walks home alone. Someone should check on that boy before something happens." My jaw clenched. Ryan continued quietly. Megan panicked. She thought Ethan might not be safe. "So she sent you?" "Yes." "Why didn't you talk to me?" Ryan hesitated. "Because Mark told her you might react badly." My laugh was short and bitter. "So instead you talked to my 9-year-old behind my back." Ryan didn't argue. "Yeah." The room fell silent again. Then Grant spoke. "We also spoke to Mark outside." "What did he say?" Grant's voice was calm but firm. "He admitted sending the photos and emails." "Why?" Grant shrugged slightly. "He claims he was trying to protect Ethan." Ryan shook his head quietly. But after the post went viral, things got out of control. My phone buzzed again. Another notification. The viral post, now at 8 million views. Thousands of strangers debating whether I was a monster or a victim. Grant looked at me sympathetically. "This is going to take time to clear up." I nodded slowly. "Yeah." Ethan tugged on my sleeve. "Dad." I looked down. "Yeah, buddy." "Are you in trouble?" I knelt beside him and placed my hands on his shoulders. "No." "Are you mad at Mom?" I paused, then answered honestly. "I think she was scared." "Of you?" I swallowed. "Of losing you?" Ethan thought about that for a moment, then nodded slowly. Ryan spoke again before leaving. "I'm going to post a full explanation online," he said. "Tell people this was a misunderstanding." Grant added, "And we'll file a statement clarifying there's no investigation." It wouldn't erase the internet, but it was a start. Ryan walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back at me. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "Ethan talks about you a lot." My chest tightened slightly. "What does he say?" Ryan gave a small smile. "He says you're strict." I sighed. "But he also says something else." "What?" Ryan looked at Ethan, then back at me. "He says his dad is harmless." The room fell quiet. And for the first time in weeks, that word didn't feel like a warning. It felt like the truth. Outside, the gray sedan finally drove away. The police lights faded down the street. And inside my house, the silence slowly turned back into something that felt like peace. But somewhere on the internet, millions of strangers were still arguing about a story they never truly understood. Because the scariest part of going viral isn't the lie that spreads first. It's how long the truth takes to catch up.